It just spilled all over me. Well, I'm back, and this is a little bit different to the other video that I did the other day. The other day it was just a general yap, and it wasn't really planned. It was just I had a topic and I talked about it. This one is sort of similar, but it actually is an introduction of what I want my channel to be and what I want to do with my YouTube channel in the future, now that I sort of have an idea of how it works and I have sort of a good setup now. Um, and yeah, this is sort of just an introduction to all of that and me also yapping. Great. So if you don't know me personally, I usually go by Velvet, um, and yeah, I'm in a lot of different fandoms like Hesbin Hotel, Hell of a Boss, The Owl House, Amphibia, and a lot of other shows like that. A lot of indie animations and whatever. Um, and I've made quite a few videos already on this channel, called The Abridged House, which is just me and my friends doing voiceovers, which I still do. I just haven't posted in quite a while. So basically, I wanted to turn this YouTube channel into sort of a yep channel, like the people that talk about like TikTok drama or whatever, but I wanted to do that but with the Helliverse and just talk about drama and whatever like that. I want to do that, but also on the side, I wanted to do videos about my alternate universe, about my OCs, about my work, and stuff like that. Because what good way to make that a thing? So I'm just gonna sort of have a little rundown of what my AU is about and the main character and the main story. So yeah. So this AU is called the VAU, which is just the name that me and the other people working on it has just called it. There's not really any reason other than that's all we could think of. Um, it's an alternate universe based around Hell of a Boss and Hesbin Hotel. And it's basically based around this one girl called Valerie. She's the main character, and it talks about, it's like just a little bit about her life before she dies, and then her life in hell, her making friends, her relationship with her partner, how she gets married and having her kids and whatever, and just existing and living in hell as a sinner. Obviously, the lore and like stuff that usually would be canon isn't canon, and we've changed a lot of stuff up to fit the story and to fit the characters and whatever. So really there's not much that's canon other than the canon characters, um, because we've changed so much of the actual story and all of the like the how the rings work and how the characters work and whatever, to fit the story and to make it more to my liking. So this universe is based in 2034. It was supposed to be based in the present day, but that doesn't fit the dates that I had already put for like when Valerie dies and when she was born and whatever, so I changed it so then it would be in the future. Um, that's just what I chose. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Um, Valerie is she's the main character. she's a sinner, but she's also an imp and a succubus, and I'll explain why soon. That's like later detail. Her full name, and I'm probably gonna pronounce this bad, but her name is Valerie Antonia Marcea Dryden. Um, that's her full name. She's a mix of different ethnicities. She's Maori, Spanish, a little bit of British, and American, but she just mostly goes by Spanish American, whatever. Yeah. Um, her, I'm gonna say a little bit of her parents' lore, just so y'all can explain, like, to understand how that works. Um, so Valerie's mother is Lucifer's sister. They're siblings, and I sort of imagine the sins, including Valerie's mother Alice, as God's children. Um, and I guess in a way we're all God's children, but they're like, he can, like, God considers the sins as his children. So yeah. Um, and one day he goes up to Alice, when you have to share a room with your freaking siblings, Jesus. Anyways, so God goes up to Alice and he's like, I want you to go to Earth, because she lives in heaven, obviously. I want you to go to Earth and act like a human and just live there. And it was sort of like a little experiment that he wanted to try out, and he chose Alice to do so because obviously he had a plan for Alice. And so Alice basically goes into her human form. She goes to Earth and sort of just lives there, and she's there for about 1 year when she meets this man called Tamati, who's Valerie's father. And they fall in love, and they end up having their first child, Primrose. Now, Primrose is actually my friend's OC, who we decided, like, it would be really cool if they were sisters. So we made them sisters. And so Primrose is a few years, like, I think around 10 years older, because Primrose is, if I can check, oh, it doesn't have her age, but she's like around 10 years older than Valerie. So they have Primrose, and then a few years later they have Valerie, and Valerie's around 6 or 7 when Alice ends up telling Tamati the truth about her being like an angel, and like her being there for God and whatever. And he goes insane because he's like, you're fucking with me, right? Like, this has to be some sort of joke. You're like trying to curse me or some shit, like witch sort of shit. And so he goes crazy and he ends up killing Alice. And because she's an angel, she just dies. She ceases to exist. Because I have a head canon, or like a canon in the universe, that if an angel or a sinner or a hellborn or whatever is on Earth, they can die from Earth weapons, not from like fire or natural disasters or whatever. They can't die from that. They can only die from like Earth guns or knives or swords or whatever, like actual weapons. Also, I don't know if this is canon, but sinners can die, but they do come back to life unless they're killed with angelic weapons. And Hellborn can't die from anything apart from angelic weapons. So they all live forever unless they're killed with angelic weapons. Anyways, I just had to put that there just so y'all understood. So Tamati ends up killing Alice. She ceases to exist. And because Primrose is around 17, she ends up taking Valerie and whatever. We haven't really explained what happens after he kills Alice, but I would imagine that Primrose takes Valerie because Valerie is like a child and they end up going somewhere else. But also Valerie and Primrose don't know that they're supposed to be like this royal until like they're in hell. Like they don't know that Alice is supposed to be like related to the Sins. So they just think they're normal people, I guess. Anyways, time skip 10 years. Valerie's now 17. She's like the popular girl, but she's really, really nice. She's very respectful. She cares about a lot of people. And everyone loves her. She's like Beelzebub of the human world, I guess. Like, she hosts parties and she always brings like alcohol and drugs and whatever. And she would do it all and do everyone. And she hosted this party for the New Year's party of 2003. So it's New Year's Eve of 2003. Actually, yeah, 2003. So it would be the New Year's party for 2004. So it's New Year's Eve of 2003. She hosts a party at this barn that's not really surrounded by any other houses. There's a maze and there's like a few animals because it's a barn. It's a farm, whatever. And she, like, everyone's having fun, everyone's drinking, there's music, whatever. And she decides to take a break to freshen up, whatever. And she looks behind her, sees like this shadowy figure, and she is like, because she's high and drunk, she's like, this isn't good. And then she tries to get back to the party to be safe, but she goes the wrong way and ends up going into the maze. Wow, fun. That's amazing for a drunk and high person. And then she ends up going to a dead end. And I guess she sort of like falls over because she like trips over herself because she's drunk and high, and and she ends up like there's this Barbie doll on the ground, like it looks like it's been dropped by a child. It's just like a Barbie, and she looks at it, obviously distracted because again she's drunk and high, and then next thing you know she's being stabbed by this man. It's a man, I decided. She gets stabbed in, I guess, the hip. I always say the chest, but it's actually her hip because that's where I always draw it. Her shoulder and her eye. So she gets stabbed in 3 different places, and I can imagine how that happens in my head, but sort of explaining it is really hard. So I'm gatekeeping that. um and then next thing you know, she dies from bleeding out. No one knows she's there. She's dead before, hours before anyone knows. Like, it's days that she stays there. I think everyone realizes that she's gone missing because she doesn't show up to school, which is very odd because even though she's a popular girl, she never misses school. She loves school. She loves learning. So everyone's like, this is weird. Usually if she isn't here, she would at least tell someone. So she, like, when she arrives in hell, she arrives in the Wrath Ring. And I'll explain that in a second. just hold your horses. She arrives in an alleyway in the Wrath Ring, and just at that moment, this dude walks past. This dude's name is Jasper. Yes. And he sees her sitting there like she's like scared as fuck. And he sees her and he's like, it's okay, like, don't be scared. Okay, great. And he sort of like helps her up and he walks her to the hotel, because the hotel, this is like around episode 1, so the hotel is like a few weeks old. It's still new. And so he takes her there, introduces her to Charlie and stuff. And like Charlie sorts of gets her settled in. She has a room there, whatever. And Charlie's like, how would you like to work here? Like, you seem like someone who could do a lot for this place. And Valerie was like, it gives me something to do. Why not? So she now works as staff in the Has-Been Hotel. And she also lives there. She ends up becoming really close with Alistair, and they become like brother and sister, I guess you could say. She also becomes really close with Nifty. And she is sort of close with Angel, but they don't really talk yet. Hold your horses. And Valerie is like doing really good for the hotel. It's becoming popular. There are a lot of sinners coming. And I don't actually want this to become canon. It just fit the story a lot, and it sort of took the attention away from the whole redemption thing because it's not about the redemption thing. But Charlie and Veggie and Valerie agreed that they would turn the hotel into a sinner's hotspot, basically where new sinners go if they need a place to stay, if anyone just needs somewhere to go, or for new sinners who's arrived and needs help finding a place, or like, I guess it's just a normal hotel, like an information area, and a lot of sinners go there just if they don't have a place to stay, if they need help getting on their feet, whatever. And that becomes really popular, and a lot of people start coming and start staying at the hotel. So much people that they had to build more rooms in the hotel because the rooms are quite big. Like, it's just a bedroom and a bathroom, but they're quite large bedrooms, and the bathroom has a bath, a shower, a sink, and a toilet. So they're quite big. It takes up a lot of space, and when you have a lot of people already staying there, it takes up so much space already. So anyways, Valerie's made her mark and has made the hotel really popular, which brings it makes Valentino really interested, and because he's a money hungry fucking bitch, he's like, she could make me a lot of fucking cash. So he goes to the hotel. Also, this is like when he still is working with Angel and stuff. He goes to the hotel and goes to Valerie, and he's like, you know, I've seen you, I've heard things about you. I think that you could do really well with me, working with me and my colleagues, Velvet and Vox. You could make a shit ton of money. And Valerie's sort of like, not really. I enjoy where I am right now, so maybe not. And he's like, you're lost, bitch. So they sort of become friends, I guess. They go to clubs together and whatever. She sort of knows Velvet and doesn't really like Vox. Vox is sort of like, he's kept with himself unless he's like doing interviews or like doing his work stuff. Other than that, he doesn't really talk to people. He stays in his little room, whatever. But Velvet sees how much attention is being brought to Valerie, and how much Valentino likes Valerie more than he likes her, and she becomes jealous of this, and she starts hating Valerie. But they eventually end up getting along because they have to work together for something. I haven't specified what. Like a photo shoot or something that they are doing with Valentino. And they become real close. Velvet's like, hang on, you're actually not really that bad. And they end up becoming friends. And later they end up liking each other. What? And then they are like, yo, I really like you. Wanna fuck? And they fuck. Well, they go to a club and they have a few drinks and then they fuck. And I I guess Velvet's mouth action was so good that Valerie like fell in love with her. And they start dating, which is really cool. Valerie sort of gets close to Angel Dust and realizes that Angel Dust is actually her childhood friend. Um, I wanted to fit this more to fit the story that I'm going to explain in a second. That Angel is a few years older than Valerie, because Valerie was born in, I think, 1997. So Angel would have been born around 1994, 1993. And he died around like 2000, 1999, whatever. I think. Actually, I don't really think that fits the story. Give me a second. Okay, I fixed it. She was born in 1986. And it's gonna take me a while to be able to figure out how old she would be now. But she's somewhere in her 40s. Yeah. Anyways, so she was born in 1986, which would make Angel be born around 1982, 1981. Which I know doesn't fit the canon, but I don't give a fuck. It's my alternate universe. I make the fucking rules. So, Valerie and Angel Dust were friends when they were alive. They became friends. Well, Alice and Angel's mother were very close and ended up, like Angel and Valerie end up becoming friends when Valerie's born, because Angel would already be like 4. So when Valerie is born, they become friends, I guess, and then they end up growing up together. Now, in their high school years, when they're about 16, well, probably not. I'm gonna sort out the details later. I obviously haven't thought too well, but I will. Do not worry. So, when they're both in their teens, I'm gonna say at least 16 if we're going by the age of consent of my country, which is 16. They are both at least 16. And they both started dating each other in high school because they sort of wanted like to like have experience, I guess, and they end up fucking a few times, like at parties or just in general. And I think about maybe a year and a half of their relationship, Angel comes to the realization that he's gay. And Valerie's like, fuck, same. I guess we fucked each other so bad that we turned each other gay. Which isn't true because, spoiler alert, they continue fucking. And I'll explain that soon. So they end up breaking up, but they continue fucking. They sort of say like it's completely platonic, you can fuck your friends. And I agree, you can fuck your friends. So that ends up happening. They end up dying. I think Angel Dust ends up dying in his, I would say, around when he's 18 or 19. I want to say that he died before Valerie did, so then he has more experience of hell and whatever. And you know, the whole thing with like Valentino and stuff. I would say that he's like maybe a few months older than Valerie, and then he dies when he's 16, maybe, probably. So then he at least has that year of experience in hell and being able to explain the story of how he ends up getting his soul owned by Valentino and stuff. Yeah, I'm still working out the details with that sort of stuff. But anyways, so Valerie and Angel Dust end up becoming friends again while they're in hell, and they get really, really close because they already had a close relationship. And Valerie's like, oh yeah, there's like this dude, Valentino. And he's like, excuse me? What did you just say? And she's like, yeah, we like became really good friends, whatever. And he's like, do not ever say those words to me ever again. And she's like, I don't get what's wrong about that. And he sort of explains that he's like really abusive, that he like abuses him and sexually assaults him and shit. And Valerie's like, oh, great. And she sort of like just stops being friends with him because whatever. Anyways, a little time passes and um uh Valerie and Velvet have been dating for a few months, and Valerie is sort of like, Velvet is like, you should join the V's. It would be really cool. And because she's like head over heels for this woman, she's like, hell yes, 100%. So now Valerie is the fourth V, and she ends up living between the hotel and the V's tower. They do a lot of renovations to Velvet's part of the tower, and it ends up becoming Velvet's and Valerie's. With how the tower works, I wanted Vox to be at the bottom because of all the paparazzi and stuff. He gets the bottom quarter that has different floors for different things. So like there would be a floor for like an apartment that has like a room, a kitchen, a bathroom, whatever. It would just be like an apartment, or like a what's the word? Like, I forgot what the word is, but it's an apartment and it's humongous, obviously, because it's a whole entire fucking floor. Anyways, and then there would be another floor for like their workspace, their studio, whatever, and then there would be like another floor for whatever. I wanted them to specifically have 3 each, and then Valerie and Velvet would have an extra one because it's 2 people sharing one space, and then it would end up being 4 people end up sharing one space, which I'll get into. Oh, I love spoiling it. And so they end up moving in together. And oh, I didn't explain the rest of the tower. Whoopsies, I'm getting distracted. So Vox has the bottom part. Valerie and Velvet have the middle. And then Valentino is the top. I wanted Valentino to have the top because I feel like he would have the roof. And the roof would have a swimming pool on it that he would use to host parties. And it would have like it would basically be like an outside club. So there would be like strippers and they would snort coke and there would be like a bar and like a whole buffet and shit. And like there would be parties there all the fucking time. And yeah, Valerie and Velvet end up moving in together in the V's Tower. And that stuff happens. And I have explained in very great detail of what happens next. So not much really happens between them becoming a couple and then what happens next. So I'm just gonna get into the nitty gritty, and there's a lot. Okay, so Valerie and Velvet go on a date to Aussies for their 2nd year anniversary. They have dinner and have a few drinks, and they end up getting pretty flirty. Like they're flirting, they're getting teasy and touchy and whatever, and they end up they decide to drive home. And I imagine when they're driving home they're like blasting Nicki Minaj or something, because Valerie loves Nicki Minaj, which is a reference to me because I love Nicki Minaj too. Anyways, so they go home and they have a balcony, like it's a huge balcony, and it's got a swimming pool. It's got the kind of swimming pool where it has like the glass floor, and it sort of has like the little waterfall thing, so the water goes off the side into a little pond sort of thing, and it just rotates sort of, so the water goes into the pond and then the water goes back up into the swimming pool, so it's just a loop. Then they have a hot tub on the side that has like LED lights, and it has jets and shit. And then like they have a stage for like karaoke and whatever performances. They've got a bar, stuff like that. And they end up going in the hot tub. They turn the lights on to like a romantic color, like a red or a pink or something like that. And they grab a bottle of wine, some wine glasses, and some cheese and crackers because they're fancy. They live like fancy white people. And like there's like fancy cheeses like Camembert and Brie, and I love Camembert, and I feel like Valerie would too. It's good cheese. And they have like caviar and relishes, and it's just a fancy cheese platter. And they would have like meats and shit. And like they have that. And then they go to the hot tub and like snack on that, and they like get all flirty again. Valerie is in the hot tub, like she's sitting in the hot tub, and Velvet is sitting on the side with her feet in because the hot tub is like built in the ground. So she's sitting on the ground outside of the hot tub with her feet in it. And they start getting a little bit freaky, and I'm gonna get into a little bit of detail here, so just warning. Valerie ends up doing a little bit of mouth action, and stuff happens, and they end up going at it. Oh yeah, I also didn't mention that when sinners arrive in hell, they arrive with both sets of reproductive organs that they can switch between. So they have a penis and a vagina, and they also have like the entire reproductive systems of both. So they have the female reproductive system and the male reproductive system, and they can switch between the two, or they can have both. With some sinners or hellborn, sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes they're born with nothing. Sometimes they're even born with a cloaca. It's really confusing, and I'll explain that once I'm finished explaining this. But I just wanted to make that aware, so you're not like, hang on a second. Anyways, they end up going at it in the hot tub. And they yeah, that's basically it. And then a few days later, like, since that day, Valerie has been feeling really sick. And she was like, maybe some of the food was off. Maybe I'm just hungover a little bit. Which is impossible. She's never been hungover before. Anyways, and a few days later, she gets a few symptoms of pregnancy. And she's like, this is not good. And she ends up taking a test, and it's positive. And she's like, this is just great. She doesn't tell Velvet. No. The first thing she does is, obviously, she celebrates because she's pregnant. She's having a child. That's been her dream. The first thing she does is she goes upstairs, goes to Valentino's studio, grabs him by his collar, pulls him down so he's like here. And she's like, if you put your hands on my child, I swear to fucking God, your head will be on my wall. And then she leaves. And she goes downstairs to Velvet's studio, shows her the pregnancy test, and they celebrate. Because it might have not been planned, but it's definitely something that they wanted. And they were really fucking happy to be mothers. And it's just, like, just thinking about it, it's so adorable. Anyways, so they're pregnant. Well, Valerie's pregnant. And she has a lot of morning sickness in the early stages of her pregnancy, because it's normal, except with her it's like a little bit more than what would be normal, I guess. And like during her pregnancy, she's always tired because pregnancy's tiring. So she ends up taking time off work. Angel Dust is helping her a lot, and Valerie ends up getting Vox to like let her, I guess, borrow his assistant, because I had a headcanon that the V's borrow their staff, because we see it in the show. Like, Valentino sometimes has Velvet's workers working for him. So I thought, like, why not? I don't think Vox's assistant has a canon name, but we call him Marcus, which I think fits. If he does have a canon name, then um, we'll probably start calling him that, but until we know his name's Marcus. Anyways, so Marcus takes care of Valerie while she's pregnant, and at first he's like, I don't like this. This is dumb. I don't want to be a fucking nanny for a pregnant woman. But then, like, the more he does it, because he's there like every single day, and he like, at first it's like super fucking embarrassing because he has to like help her bathe, and like he has to cook for her, like he's basically a maid. But then like he starts realizing that Valerie is actually really fucking nice. He enjoys spending time with her and being able to see her experience this and to grow a human, or not a human, to grow a hellborn child. It's it was super extraordinary and like new, because this is like the one of the first times this has happened. And he ends up becoming really close to Valerie, and they become really good friends. And um um so they become really close, really good friends. um a few months pass by, and she sleeps a lot. She's always tired, very emotional, just basic pregnancy stuff. And Velvet feels so bad because she can't be there all the time to help, because she has to do like shows and stuff. That's not something that you can just cancel. Like, those shows had been planned for months, and they had to be done. And Velvet felt so bad because she wanted to be there. She wanted to see her partner experiencing this, but she couldn't. Anyways, um, one day, Valerie was at the hotel. She's like 2 weeks from the due date, and she's talking to Alistair. In the lobby, there's like 20 people, so it's quite busy. And she's talking to Alistair, and she feels something, and something's off. And she feels something on her leg, and she's like, either I just pissed myself, or I've just gone into labor. And Alistair's like, how great. So he grabs angel dust because he doesn't know what to do. Alistair would be the last person to know what to do when a woman is in labor. So he calls over angel dust, and angel dust is like, oh my fucking god, like, it's too early, like, it can't be. But Valerie's like, no, it's happening. It's fucking happening, bro. So they wouldn't be able to make it in time to go to the hospital in Lust. I mean, oh my god, I did it again. In Sloth, the hospital is in the Sloth Ring. There's no hospitals in the Pride Ring. So because ring travel takes quite a long time, and why would you want to take a pregnant and in labor woman onto public transport? That's like a bad fucking idea. So Angel just decides she can give birth to this baby in the hotel. So he grabs Valerie's phone, calls Velvet, and he's like, bitch, you better get the fuck over here right the fuck now. Your partner is in labor. This baby's coming. And Velvet's like, great. So Angel sort of helps Valerie waddle up the stairs and into her room. And Velvet gets there, and Charlie goes in just to help, because you never know. You never know when you need an extra person. And I feel like also because Valerie and Charlie are like family, so like I feel like Charlie would be like, you're my family. Like I want to be there to support you, even though I don't really want to see that shit. Whatever. And like it takes about an hour for it all to get going, I guess. And Angel's obviously down there doing everything. He doesn't wear any protection. Oh my god, he doesn't wear any protection. That sounds weird. He doesn't wear any gloves or anything. It's just his bare hands. He doesn't give a fuck. Like he takes the gloves off that he's wearing because he doesn't want those to get ruined. But honestly, he could not give two single fucks. He's been covered in so many other substances that are much worse than blood and possibly shit. So he's just more worried about making sure that the baby and Valerie are safe and that they survive this. So he helps Valerie give birth to the baby, and it all goes well. When the baby's born, he takes her to the bathroom, washes her off, wraps her in a blanket or a towel or whatever. Velvet helps Valerie do the rest of that stuff and helps her clean up, and Charlie cleans the bed because the bed's like covered in blood and shit. Fun. And Charlie would not give a fuck about the blood and the other fluids. She doesn't care about that. She's more worried that the fact that the sheets are ruined and the bed is entirely covered in blood, and like, we're gonna have to get a new mattress, whatever. But Valerie's sort of like, don't worry, like, we'll be able to clean it, and if we can't, then we can just flip it over, whatever. Or if we really do need to get a new one, we'll get a new one. But it's not a worry, it's just blood. And yeah, so that all happens. Then Angel ends up taking Valerie to the hospital. Velvet can't go, obviously, because she has to do stuff for work. So Angel drives Valerie and the baby to the hospital in the sloth ring. Oh my god. If I accidentally say lust, I mean sloth. He takes them to the sloth ring and takes them to the hospital, where they stay for a few days just to get checked up and whatever, because I don't know, It's just what I decided. Angel Dust stays there the entire time. He does not leave for anything. And he sort of like takes over taking care of the baby. Montoya is her name, by the way, I didn't say that. Montoya, he takes care of Montoya while Valerie sleeps. And Valerie is like, I don't want you doing that for me. Like, this is my baby. I don't want you to feel like you have to take care of my children or my child. And he's like, you need to rest. Like, you just went through probably one of the hardest things that any woman would have to go through. Like, you deserve to rest, and I've got the baby. Like, all it needs is to be changed and to be fed. Other than that, it's fine. Like, there is no need to worry. And so that all happens. They end up going home, and Valerie and Montoya end up going to the V's Tower, I should say. And Valerie and Montoya just stay home. Valerie takes care of Montoya. Velvet isn't really there because she has to work a lot, and Angel Dust isn't really there because he is doing his own stuff. He's working with Val and whatever. He can't stay there 24/7. And Valerie being alone with a crying baby 24/7, that does not do well for her. That it takes her to a really bad place, and she ends up getting postpartum depression. And it's like she refuses to admit that this is what's happening, but Velvet ends up noticing and is like something's not right, but I don't know what, and I feel like something bad is gonna happen. Anyways, one day Valerie's taking care of Montoya alone. Velvet is a few stories down doing work, and Montoya just will not stop crying. Like, Valerie's changed her, fed her, burped her, given her a bath, changed her clothes so many times, nursed her, rocked her, like tried to calm her down, just anything that she can think of. She made sure that Montoya wasn't hurting. She just could not get the crying to stop, and it got so bad that she ends up screaming, like telling Montoya to shut up. And then she realizes what she's done, and she's like I just screamed at my baby. And she gets this really bad feeling, like a bad feeling like she's going to hurt Montoya. So she does a good decision of putting Montoya on her bed, like in the middle so she can't roll off or anything. Walks out, goes to Velvet. Velvet's like, hey, where's the baby? Like, what's going on? She was really confused. And Valerie just starts sobbing. Like, the most heartbreaking sob you could ever hear. Like Like, I couldn't even explain it. I'd start sobbing. And Valerie, like, falls into into Velvet's arms and just sobs in her shoulder. And she's like, I can't get this baby to stop crying and it's making me go insane. And she sort of explains like how she had that bad thought of hurting Montoya because of how frustrated she was. And Velvet is like, okay, take a deep breath. Everything is fine. I'm here now. It's okay. So she ends up taking Valerie upstairs. Montoya is still crying because she's being left alone. Velvet takes Montoya, does everything she can, like feeds her, burps her, changes her, and then puts her to bed, like soothes her a little bit, and then she's fine. And Valerie sort of gets a little bit pissed off because she's like, why didn't she do that for me? Why wasn't she doing that for me? And she just gets really fucking upset because she's like, I'm a terrible mother, like I'm so bad at this, she hates me. And she, like Velvet's like this is just what happens. Babies do this sometimes we can't stop them crying because that's how they communicate with us. They don't know how to talk, so they use crying. And she sort of just explains as like reassurance. So she ends up running Valerie a bath and sort of washes her because Valerie hasn't had a bath in a while. And that's quite common for like women who have just had babies. Usually they put the baby before themselves because that's just what happens. And sometimes they put their hygiene last because, let's face it, your child is more important than your hygiene. I said it. So she's like, you need to get clean while this baby's down, and I'm gonna do it. So she like runs the bath, puts like fancy essences in, and like does an incense, and like it's so relaxing. And she washes her hair, gets her like nice cozy pajamas, and cooks her dinner because by the time all this happens, it's like dinner time. So she cooks Valerie dinner, and she's like, everything's okay, like it turned out okay in the end. And then she was like, if you ever have a problem or you have a situation like this again, then you know you can always call me. Like, I'm literally just downstairs. I am here. Like, I might have to be stuck doing work, but you and this baby are more important to me than any fashion show. I'd rather have to not have everything perfect than to have you or this baby be hurt. Anyways, really sad, but anyways. Valerie ends up becoming really protective of Montoya and doesn't let anyone hold her apart from Velvet and Angel Dust. And it's like this for months. Anyways. Um, when Montoya gets a little bit older and she starts walking, she, because she's a goat, she gets the goat from the Morning Stars because I headcanon them as goats. Anyways, she's a goat, and in the first few years of her life, she acted a lot like a goat. She would walk around on all fours, I guess crawling, but she did that for quite a long time before she started actually walking. She made goat noises, which she still makes, just not as common as she did when she was a baby. And she would also bunt people. Um, um, yeah, she's like the goat from Despicable Me. Yeah. Anyways, this, I guess, not really a phase, but the goat behavior sort of stops when she turns like 4 or 5, and she starts talking. She starts walking and she stops bunting. Um, and her horns also start coming in because I feel like when they're born they don't have horns because that would be fucking painful. But around 5 months, 5 or 6 months, their horns would usually grow in to little stubs. Um, and then throughout their toddler years, they would grow, and they would stop growing at around the age of 16. Um, so because her horns are like back here, so they were little stubs, like little ponytails, and I feel like that sometimes she does tie them up in ponytails, like how Moxie does in Unhappy Campers. Like, sometimes she would do that with her horns. Anyways, um, she, when Montoya was 7, Valerie and Velvet end up getting married. Um, Montoya was there for the actual ceremony, but then ended up being taken home and babysat. Right now I'm saying that it was by Marcus, but it might be by someone else. I just feel like that everyone else in the hotel would be at the wedding, but all of the children were not there. And also, Octavia was born around the same time as Montoya, so she also, like, they were friends, because they're like the same age. And because Valerie's like a royal, I guess she's related to the Sins, and she's also an overlord. I didn't mention that she's an overlord. She owns souls. She is also friends with Stolas and is really close with the Goetias. Originally I did make it that she was going to be a Goetia, but I was like, that wouldn't work. She's not a bird. Anyways, so Montoya becomes really close with Via, and they become friends. And anyways, the wedding. Angel Dust is the maid of honor for Valerie, and Vox and Valentino are the bridesmen for Velvet. And like, it's so cute. Like, they do the vows, which I'm gonna write the vows. I'm gonna write them. And you know, it was so cute. Valerie and Velvet do their little first dance, and I'm gonna find out like what song they're gonna do it to, because I have to have songs for everything. And then Valerie and Angel Dust end up doing a dance together because, like, that's her best friend. Like, I feel like Angel Dust would also walk her down the aisle, because Angel is the closest thing to whatever family she has left. So yeah. But also, Angel is also Montoya's godfather, and then Husk ends up becoming her godfather when they start dating. Whatever. So the wedding's going great. Valerie is a little bit drunk, and they have like a little table where the brides sit. It's like just for them. I don't remember what it's called, but they're sitting there and like everyone else is sitting at tables, and like Valerie's full on like getting handsy, like she's got her hand under the table trying to touch thing, and Velvet's like, hun, like wait for the honeymoon, like it's only a few hours, like calm your farm. And like they full on, like Valerie tries to make another baby in front of everyone, and like it's funny because like she doesn't mean to like cross boundaries, I guess. She's mostly doing it as a joke and just being flirty and dumb. Um, and because Velvet doesn't want to do that in front of people, um, she sort of like, you know, sets that boundary. And once that boundary is set, it sort of just goes into a more joking manner, in more of like a teasing, joking way. Because like at first it was very serious, and then she set the boundary, and then she was like, well, I'm joking now. Anyways, then yeah, and then the honeymoon happens, and they end up going to like it's like this couple's hotel, like they have in a lot of different countries, but it's in the Lost Ring, and it has like wine, and it's got like this fancy house bed and like a swimming pool and shit. Like it's super fucking fancy. And they stay there and they fuck and spend time together, and it's really romantic and really cute, and I love them so much. Anyways, um then I'm just gonna skip a few years later. Montoya's now 22. Great. For a few years, she's been working at a club in the Pride Ring. She does what I like to call drag shows, because it basically is just drag shows. Um, she gets on outfits, puts on makeup, and wears wigs, and then performs in front of people in a non-sexual manner, which is basically just drag shows. She's performing in drag. Um, and she, her performances are so unique and so elegant, and she becomes popular throughout all of the Rings of Hell. All of the rings. Um, People come to see her every single night. They go to that bar, to that club, just for her. If she wasn't there, that club would be shut down. And one day, oh god, one day, Valentino ends up hearing about Montoya. And again, because he's a money hungry fucking bitch, he is like, money. So he goes to the club to watch her, and she recognizes him because he's an overlord. He's a V. He's popular. But also, like, he works with her mothers. So why wouldn't he know them? Why wouldn't he know him? So she, like, goes up to him and they have a few drinks and they sort of get flirty, and then they go to Montoya's car and they fuck. And this is actually in the first chapter of a fic that I'm writing about this, but the fucking is not consensual at all. Well, it is. It is. But if you've read the story, you'd know Montoya said that she doesn't feel comfortable having sex without a condom, even though she cannot become impregnated, which I'll talk about in a second. She would much rather fuck with protection, which Valentino doesn't agree with, and she's like, I guess it's fine. But in her mind, and a boundary that she's already expressed, she doesn't want to do that. She should have seen the red flags. Anyways, Montoya was born genderless, I like to say. Thank you for the add-on. Valerie was born without any reproductive organs, without a reproductive system, and the only thing that she has in terms of private parts are nipples and what I like to call a cloaca, which is what I was talking about before. It's not an actual cloaca, but it's basically just a hole that is just there for pleasure. And yeah. And you're probably thinking, like, what about like when she needs to pee or shit? I made it that they don't need to shit or pee or even eat. They're already dead. They can't die from anything apart from angelic weapons. So they don't need to eat or anything. If they don't need to eat, then they don't need to go to the toilet. But yeah, because I was thinking, like, well, I headcanon sinners as souls, not as like people. Like it's their souls from their body becoming a person, sort of like the crystal gems, like how they're holograms, but they become like real people from their gems. It's sort of like that, but with their souls. Um, and they don't need to eat because they're already dead. They can't die, whatever. So Montoya just has that part specifically for pleasure, nothing else. Um, I was gonna make it that she had absolutely nothing there, but then I was like, hang on, how would she fuck? um, and yeah. And you're probably wondering, if she's genderless, then why do I use she, her pronouns for her? And that's because she was raised feminine. She had more feminine traits than masculine, so she was raised as a female, and she was raised with she, her pronouns. And Valerian Velvet was sort of like, if she gets older and she decides that she doesn't like those terms and she wants to use something different, then that's totally okay. But this is how we're raising her. And she decided that that was how she felt comfortable. That's who she feels she is. And they were like, great. Saves us a lot of work. Why not? Anyways, so, Valentino and Montoya end up becoming, they end up dating. They have a relationship now. And they've been dating for a while. And Valentino brings up the contract. Yeah. He manipulates her and is like, we could make a lot of money off this. Like, it's a good deal. So she signs it. And now he owns her soul. And just the other day, I came up with a little story that, like, because when Montoya and Valentino start dating, she stayed at the hotel. She stayed at the V's Tower quite a lot. And when she starts staying at the hotel again, she, like, angel dust sort of smells a familiar smell. Because I didn't say this, but Angel doesn't work for Valentino anymore. They sort of came to an agreement that, yeah, I'll still own your soul and have full control over you, but you don't have to work for me anymore. Which is why he was looking out for Montoya, because he needed new meat, I guess. And angel dust smells a familiar smell on his niece. And he's like, hang on a second. And he's like, he goes up to her and he's like, are you fucking Valentino? And she's like, excuse me? And he's like, are you fucking that owl pimp? And he gets like so fucking worried. And she's like, yeah, why? And then he's like, has he like asked you to sign a contract or something? And she's like, yeah. Why? And then he's like, girl. And then he gets like super pissed. Like, it's not her fault. He knows that. But he's like, you were raised by two women who told you explicitly not to sign a contract by anyone. And you went and did exactly that. And she got really defensive and really pissed, and she was like, they got into an argument, and it got to the point where she was like, at least I didn't ask for it. At least I wasn't a coked up whore. At least Valentino actually loves me. And he's like, hold on. He gets really hurt because he didn't ask for it. That's not something that anyone would ask for. And he's sort of like, he's sort of just like, and he's like, don't you dare ever say that. You have no idea the shit that that man put me through. And I swear to God that you will never have to experience that ever in your life. Because I swear to fucking God, it is horrible. And she doesn't take it seriously. She gets really upset and is like, she's feels bad because she's hurt her family. And Angel goes to his room and like he's dating Angel. He's dating Husk at this point. So he goes up to his room in the hotel and he goes to Husk and he talks to him about it and sort of just vents. And Montoya comes in a few hours later and sort of apologizes. And they talk about it. And he's like, hey, I don't want to tell you what to do. You are a grown adult. But I just want you to be careful. Because that man is dangerous. And she's like, I love him. He loves me. He would not hurt me. Girl. Anyways, so fast forward to a few years later. Montoya is now 27. We're going to focus a little bit on Valerie now. Valerie and Velvet are on the couch in their house and they're cuddling, watching TV or something, and Valerie's like, we should have another kid. I want to have another kid. And Velvet's like, you want to do that shit again? Willingly? And she's like, yeah, I think that, you know, we have a lot of experience now. I think that we do really good. So Velvet's like, sure, why not? And they start that night. That night, because Montoya is usually staying at the hotel, mostly now. So they have the house by themselves most of the time. So they get freaky and they're trying for a baby. And it takes a while. They try for a few nights in a row, and Valerie takes tests every few days, but they're all negative, and she's like, what if I can't have another baby? And then I think maybe about a month later, Valerie is like, I should do another test just in case, just for fun. So she does, and it comes out positive, and she's like, hang on a second. So she takes another test just in case, and it comes out positive. And she goes to Velvet, and she's like, oh my god. Shows her the test, and they are so fucking happy. Her whole pregnancy is basically the same with Montoya. She's always tired. Marcus, like, helps her a lot. They bond a lot. Whatever. Harriet, which is her name, she was born on time. She was born on her due date. And so they went, Valerie, Velvet, and Angel Dust go down to the same hospital that Montoya was born in. And she ends up giving birth to Harriet. Angel and Velvet sort of swap roles this time. Angel Dust is on the top. He does not take his eyes off of Valerie for a second. Like, he's holding her hand and he's like, it's okay. You'll get through this. You're fine. And Velvet's down here with the doctor. She's seeing everything. She's there holding the baby as it's coming out. And she fucking hates it. But she does it anyways. Because she's like, ew, this is so gross. I'm never going to forget this moment. And then again, like with Montoya, Velvet has to do work stuff. And Angel stays with Valerie. And it's basically the same situation. Yeah. There is so many other fan kids that we've sort of added into the story. We've got, I've got their names, hold on. So we've got Harriet. We've got Courtney. Courtney is Stella and Striker's baby. So Stella and Striker end up dating. And because they have the mansion now, or like the Stolas' house, I guess you could say. And they did it, and one day, like, there wasn't even any signs that Stella was egging there. She knew. She didn't tell anyone though. And Striker comes home. Jesus. Striker comes home And Stella's sitting there doing knitting, and there's an egg beside her. And he comes in and he's like, "Is that dinner?" And she's like, "We're not eating our child for dinner. How fucking dare you?" And he's like, "Our child? What?" And she just doesn't say anything more than that. And then she hatches, and she's like, sometimes she's super fucking elegant. She's like a princess and whatever. And then next second, she's like, "G'day, mate." But yeah, her name's Courtney. She's a little princess. Then there's Patricia and Diana. They are sisters, and they are Sir Pentious and Cherry Bomb's kids. Patricia is the older one. She's 3 years older than Diana, and they're like, obviously Sir Pentious has them, and they're like, don't have any drawings of them or anything, but just like I can imagine what they look like, and they're adorable. They're basically like, they have Cherry's personality, but acts a lot like Pentious. Just imagine that. Anyways, then there's Daniela. She's Charlie and Vaggy's kid, who was born around the same time as Harriet. So they're around the same age, and they become really close friends. Then there's Ava, she's not canon to the story, but she's Tennessee and Blitz's kid. Tennessee's myself Sona. I've added the information into this because there is like a side universe where Tennessee does exist, but in the main one she doesn't exist, because I wanted Stolitz to be canon because it fits with what I wanted. Anyways, then there's Rex and Willow, which they're twins, and they are Luna's and Colin's puppies. Rex is they're sort of like the twins from the Loud House. Like, Rex loves mud and bugs and loves being boyish, and then Willow loves like princessy things and gets along well with Courtney. And I imagine sometimes they play like cowboys and princesses, where like Courtney acts as like a cowboy and has to save the princess. Yeah. So I still have to figure out how old each child is. All I know is that Montoya's the oldest, and the Husker Du kittens are the youngest, which I'll get into that. It's based off of the Husker Du Kitten AU by Maddie's Mini on TikTok. It's not my AU, but I love it so much that I sort of, I guess, stole the idea. But I haven't got into much detail of it. I haven't really done anything yet because I'm not in that part of the lore yet. I'm doing it as time goes on, so I'm basically doing it from beginning to end. I'm not doing different parts of it. But any credit for any of the Husker Du kittens part will be going towards Maddie, because she came up with the idea. She came up with all the lore. I'm just putting it into my AU because I love the idea. I'm like obsessed with it, and I save everything that's based off of the AU, or like any headcanons that Maddie has, whatever. I have a lot of references to her headcanons, her ideas, even her stories are all references in this AU, and all that goes directly to her, all the credit, 100%. There are a lot of different references in this AU to a lot of other creators, which I'm not taking credit for. I just take the idea and edit where I see fit. Anyways, so I actually have this written down because I wrote it down yesterday. I decided to write what I know and in the best way I can explain about the Husker Dust Kitten AU from what I've seen in the best way that I can word it. Anyways, I'm gonna say this first, just so y'all understand it. I've already said it, but I'm gonna say it again just because it's written down here. So, usually in canon, sinners cannot reproduce. It's canon that they can't reproduce, but in this AU, they can, and they can have children, but only if they are genuinely in love, if they truly love each other. And the child or children are usually the manifestation of the two combined souls, which is what Maddie said. Yeah. Also, with Angel, Maddie said that she thinks that Angel had so much internalized homophobia and misogyny that he was basically punished and given such a feminine body, and was given the ability to be able to switch between reproductive organs, which that part gave me the idea to make it canon in my AU that every sinner has both reproductive systems. Yeah. Anyways, so I originally thought that Angel didn't know that he was pregnant until the day that he gives birth, but I realized that I was wrong, and he realizes that one day he can't switch between his organs, and he's stuck with a vagina, basically. And he's like, this is a little bit weird. This has never happened before. And I guess he takes it to Lucifer. I don't know what he says exactly. I still need to watch that specific video where it explains it, but whatever. And Lucifer's like, okay. Anyways, I don't know if anything happens between that and him actually having the kittens, but from what I remember, Angel is going into labor, and he realizes this, so he locks himself in his room in the V's Tower because he doesn't want anyone to see what might come out. So he locks himself in his room, and he ends up giving birth to the first kitten, Ace, in his bathtub. He sort of like checks him out. I don't actually know if Ace is a boy or a girl. I assumed that he was a boy, so I'm gonna call him a boy, but if not, correct me on that. But from my knowledge, I know that Ace is a boy and Shirley Temple and Lottie are both girls. If that's not right, then I will correct myself. But that's just from my knowledge. He has Ace in the bathtub and cleans him off and checks him out. Whatever. And he realizes this is a kitten. This is Husk's. Valentino's gonna kill this cat. So you know what he does? He climbs out the fucking window. And now he's multiple stories high on the edge of the fucking tower with a fucking baby in his hands and two more waiting. Anyways, while he's on the side of the tower, he feels something coming and he's like, well, shit. Great. So he goes to like a balcony. I think it's either a balcony or like a stairwell. Whatever. It's something outside of the tower. So I'm gonna say balcony. And he gives birth to Shirley Temple. And he like calls her ugly, which I think is really cute. Like it's mean, but it's cute. And I remember Maddie saying that he goes like, is there anyone left in there? Please tell me. Which is so cute. And when I heard her say that, I started crying because of how cute it was. Anyways. And then he ends up going to the hotel. He walks in with two kittens in his hands and everyone's scared shitless or worried shitless. And I wrote down here my favorite part of the whole thing. A while later, he arrives at the hotel with two kittens in his arms and one on the fucking way. Everyone is worried shitless, while Husk's dad jokes start kicking in. Like, Maddie said that Husk had a feeling that those kittens were his, and he's like the fatherly instincts just started kicking in, and I wanted to make a joke of it. Anyways, so like a few hours later, like they were having a good time, and then here comes the third. He has the third kitten, and that kitten's name is Lottie, which is named after Charlotte, and it's so cute. But yeah. And we're finally getting a fucking fan fiction about it, but we have to wait until the last chapter of Childhood Soulmates is out. I'm gonna stop there because this is just gonna end up me talking about Maddie and that stuff, and I'm not gonna do that because that's not what the video is about. But yeah, other than small little details, that's mostly the entire lore from what I have now. I haven't really focused on any other characters other than like Valerie and Montoya because I haven't really had the chance. But yeah. Anyways, I might do a part 2 of this once I have more lore ready. And yeah, I will be posting a lot of lore related things, a lot of AU related things on my YouTube channel, and I also do have a Twitter that I post my art and stuff on, and I also do have a TikTok that I post my art and stuff on, which will be probably in the description, but it is also in my bio on my channel. So like check them out if you want, I guess. I'm also on Discord if you would like to add me, which will also be in the description. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I know I sure did, because I finally got all that shit out and I was finally able to record it all in one piece. But yeah. Anyways.